everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Natalie Fierros-Bach. I am one of the executive directors at Rural Arizona Engagement. We're one of the sponsors of the event along with Florence Education Association. Rural Arizona Engagement, we call ourselves RAZE for short. We are a nonprofit dedicated to building community power through civic engagement, voter education, and youth leadership. So some of the young folks that you see going around here today were part of our RAZE Youth Leadership Program, and then a couple of the young people also work for our organization. We're honored to have you with us here tonight because we believe getting to know your local candidates and then using that knowledge at the voting booth empowers our communities for the betterment of all. You will find a brief outline of events on your program. So hopefully everybody was able to get a program. Taylor has some over here with some other goodies as well. But one side has the program on it, and on the other, you'll find some general information around voting for the FUSD Governing Board on the back. So we want to give a special thank you to the 4 candidates that are running for Florence Unified School Board. They are Roger Biede, Bob Daly, Sherri Jones, and Tammy Quist. Now you may vote for up to 3 of these candidates in the upcoming election. They are all write-in candidates, and that's explained a little bit on the back of your program. So you will also see several propositions on your ballot. Now propositions are a yes or a no vote, and tonight we're going to speak on 2 of the propositions that deal directly with education, both as a state and locally here in Florence. So the first is the statewide proposition, Prop 208, and Jody Hector, president of Florence Education Association, our mighty co-sponsor and co-moderator, is here to tell you a little bit more about that proposition.
Okay, make sure this works. Good evening, and thank you all for participating in this forum tonight. I would like to speak about Proposition 208, or Invest in Ed, and how this will positively impact Florence Unified School District and this community when it's passed. As you all know, education in Arizona has been underfunded for quite some time. Our students deserve better, and Proposition 208 will help. This initiative started in 2018 and recently withstood a legal challenge and won at the Arizona Supreme Court. I am proud to say that Florence Education Association helped to collect some of the 387,422 signatures that were turned into the Secretary of State during a pandemic. There are a lot of misconceptions about Proposition 208, so allow me to clarify. Starting in tax year 2021, Proposition 208 will create a 3.5% surcharge on income for excess earnings over $250,000 for individuals and $500,000 for households. For example, an individual income of $251,000 would incur a surcharge only on the $1,000, the amount over $250,000. So that would mean only an additional $35 per year for that individual. This surcharge will only impact the top 1% of Arizona residents, which means that 99% of Arizona residents will not be impacted. The Arizona Department of Revenue estimates revenues of $940 million annually in new permanent funding for K-12 public education when Proposition 208 passes. So where will the money go? 50% will go towards teacher and certified personnel, so that's about $3.8 million to Florence Unified School District, certified staff. This will help to fill every single classroom with a qualified teacher and provide the social, emotional, and behavioral support that our students deserve. 25% will go towards student support services or our classified staff. So that's about $1.9 million to Florence Unified School District and will help increase the support that our students need. 12% will go towards high school career training and workforce fund. 10% towards mentoring and retention programs for new classroom teachers. and 3% will go towards the Arizona Teachers Academy. That's about $760,000 to FUSD, and this will help to support our high school students, retain our new teachers, and provide incentives to individuals to become teachers. So as you can see, Proposition 208 will make a positive impact to education in Arizona and the Florence Unified School District. Our students deserve the best education, an abundance of support, and a certified teacher in every classroom. So please vote yes on Proposition 208. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Rita Ize. She is the Director of Public and Community Relations at Florence Unified School District.
Good evening, everyone, esteemed guests, members of the public, and candidates. My name, thankfully, is not Chris Wallace. Fortunately, I am Rita Ize, the Director of Public Relations for Florence Unified School District, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to address all of you joining us here in person, and for those viewing this forum virtually. Candidates, I welcome you. It is a pleasure to meet you, and I wish you all a successful and uninterrupted forum this evening. Tonight I have the honor of introducing a man that truly embodies the FUSD mission, vision, and culture. Allow me to provide a brief history of Chris Knudsen. Chris became superintendent of Florence Unified in April of 2017. He also served as the assistant superintendent from 2013 to 2017, and as principal of Florence High School for 5 years previously. His extensive professional career in education includes other districts throughout the valley, such as Apache Junction, Chandler Unified, Tempe Union High School District, prior to calling Florence his family. He received his bachelor's degree from Iowa State University. We won't hold that against you, Chris. And his master's degree from Northern Arizona University in educational leadership. He and the saint of a wife, Angie, have 3 children, Kylie, Haley, and Jace. Even though we are here tonight to learn about these 4 ambitious school board candidates, it is just as important to learn about the man who leads FUSD every day with unrelenting optimism and passionately advocates for high-quality education. Because whomever of you are able to secure their seat at the table will also work and serve alongside the members of the Arizona School Boards Association, a group who works tirelessly for the diverse interests of public school governing boards and the approximately 1 million Arizona children whose education is entrusted to their care. So who is Chris Knudsen? As I said earlier, he is FUSD. F, he is a forward thinker. With his insight and ability to sense emerging trends, he was able to secure technology and provide laptops for every student prior to the pandemic. U, Chris is unparalleled with his unique ability to unite the district and community stakeholders. Whether he is planning the only in-person high school graduation or driving through Santam Valley with his monster of a smoker to feed frontline workers, Chris's ability to be uplifting in times of adversity is beyond admirable. And S, Chris is a true servant leader. He instills a collaborative culture that relies on clear communication, innovation, and the desire to work together toward common goals. And finally, D, Chris is driven. When others see roadblocks, Chris sees opportunity. Chris is able to rally together the FUSD family to support and help each other throughout times of crisis, and no matter the obstacle that may lie ahead. It is these and so many other qualities that makes me proud to introduce Florence Unified School District Superintendent, Mr. Chris Knudsen.
Wow, I should have worn my hip waders. You know, we got something on the ballot called Prop 449. You know, in 2017, you guys passed a bond to help us do some great things in Florence Unified. We were able to buy new buses. You know, back in when the recession hit, our capital budget was cut from $4.3 million down to $500,000. And we've lived through many years of having a $500,000 capital budget, and that's how you buy buses. That's how you buy air conditioners. And the bond, the $25 million bond that you guys passed, allowed us to buy buses, fleet vehicles for our support services, vans for our special needs students. We were allowed to renovate the Florence K gym. It was a gym that was built a long time ago that, quite honestly, it wasn't adequate to hold a competition in, so we extended the gym 25 feet, and I don't know if you've been able to go in and check it out, but it's beautiful. When I was principal at Florence High School, I used to watch my kids walk 4 blocks over to the bus barn to practice soccer and football because there wasn't a practice facility for our student athletes at Florence High. So the bond helped us to build the Steve McCain practice complex at the end of this street. I don't know if you guys have been on that, but now the students at Florence have that, where the band can practice on, the football team, the soccer team, baseball and softball. So I wanted to thank you guys for, you know, the overwhelming passage of last bond. Now I know some of you, if you drive around the district, you see the growth that's coming. I mean, building is going on everywhere. And you know, we grew by 300 kids last year. Right now we're navigating COVID. So it really hasn't stopped the growth across the district in the building of homes. So 3 of our schools are getting to the point where they're about ready to be maxed out, so we would have to adjust boundaries and send kids to different schools. That's not something that I like doing. I don't like having conversations about changing boundaries for our kids. So we're asking for this bond 449, and our goal is to not build new schools, but to build onto existing schools. So, you know, for instance, at all 3 of our high schools, and you can check these out later, they'll be here, we have space, like 4 acres behind Florence High School, where we would like to build 40 classrooms. And same thing at Post and Biede, and same thing at Santan Foothills. So our goal would be to convert our district into a K-6 model at all of the present K-8 schools, move the 7th and 8th grade onto campuses that will be built near our high schools. Now the reason for this is right now we have 200 kids at every K-8 school. It's very difficult to have an honors program where you want a kid to be in honors, you know, history, English, math, and science. So what we presently do is we bus those high-flying 7th and 8th graders over to our high schools for math and science, and then we bus them back to the K-8s. By building buildings in close proximity to our high schools, it's going to allow us to have more students on each junior high, 7th and 8th grade campus, so that we can bring rigor and take the ceiling out of our 7th and 8th grade. Presently, at our high schools, we've taken the ceiling out. At Florence High School, we have the IB diploma program. At Santan Foothills, we have the STEM diploma program. At Post and Biede, Santan Foothills has the AP capstone program. So those kids that are the highest flying in the district, academically, they are not held back. So they can leave us and go to any university across the country and do well because the rigor is in our high schools. We want to do the same thing in our 7th and 8th grade, and this plan will allow us to do that. When we had cuts in 2008, guess what got hit the hardest in regards to curriculum? 7th and 8th grade arts. So it's very difficult to have choir, band, orchestra, arts, PE in a junior high school when you only have 200 kids in the school. So by moving them in proximity to our high schools, we will be able to grow the arts in our 7th and 8th grade back. And you know, more recently they have been putting money back into the Capitol. They were planning on restoring it fully this year, but then COVID hit, so that didn't happen. I mean, over the course of 3 years, the governor and the legislature increased teacher pay by 20%, and they started to restore the Capitol across the state. By doing this, building these buildings, 40 classrooms at each high school, I think it's fiscally responsible because it costs a lot of money to build a high school or a junior high or even an elementary school. If we add on to land that we already have, classroom building space, there will not be a cafeteria. We will try and utilize the cafeteria space at the high school. Plus, we don't have to build athletic fields. And we'll be able to give our 7th and 8th grade kids an opportunity to grow in the arts in our district. So I can't tell you to vote yes or no, but I would ask you to please vote. And I'm excited. I got to tell you, we presently have a great school board. I mean, twice they were runner-up for the top leadership award in Arizona School Board Association in the last 3 or 4 years. And I got to tell you, looking at the candidates that we have that are running, I think we're going to continue to be a great school board. And I love working alongside the board and trying to help our kids in our district. So if any of you have any questions or you need to talk to me about any of these ideas, please call the district office. I will be happy to meet you anywhere or in my office to talk about, you know, the future of FUSD. We want to make it a great school district, and we need your help. So thank you.
Teachers, students, and community members. The candidates were given a list of possible questions beforehand, and each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each question. Candidates will be limited to 3 minutes for each response. Candidates, you will find Drea right here in the front row acting as a timekeeper. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin, and Jody is going to ask the first question.
Okay, so the first question is, tell us about yourself and why you are running for the Florence Unified School District School Board. And we'll start with Bob.
Goody, I get to be number one. I am Bob Daly. I've been on the school board for 14 years. I own 2 businesses in the Santan Valley and another franchise up in Mesa. I've lived in Santan Valley since 2004. My daughter, who is now a teacher at Santan Foothills High School, went through K-8 at Walker Butte, went to Poston Butte, went to ASU, graduated cum laude, is now a science teacher and volleyball coach at Santan Foothills High School.
Hello. Oh, it actually does work pretty good with my mask on. I wasn't sure if I was going to take it off or not. First time I've had to do public speaking with a mask on my face and a microphone. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sherri Jones, and I have been a resident of the Florence Unified School District in Santan Valley since 2004. So I've had an opportunity to see a lot of the growth that Superintendent Knudsen was speaking of. And my work has allowed me to be a part of the educational experiences of supporting many of the early childhood education programs that are here in Pinal County and some that exist in at least the Santan Queen Creek area. I have spent 20 years of my professional development working specifically in the early childhood education sector, which has allowed me to spend a great deal of time with 0 to 5 age children, but then also moving into the K through 5th grade. So I bring a great deal of expertise when it comes to supporting children, teachers, and families with being successful with navigating education. And I look forward to the opportunity to bring some of that subject matter expertise, as well as many of the connections that I have been able to develop all over Arizona over the last 2 decades.
Good evening, all. My name is Roger Biede. I've been in Santan Valley since about 2000, when I met the love of my life and married her. I have 2 wonderful sons that grew up in the area. Unfortunately, they did go to Queen Creek, just with the school district areas. I'm currently the executive director of the Greater Florence Chamber of Commerce here in town. So I bring a little bit of expertise of what's going on, bringing that community connection to the school board, and a little bit of hope and dreams for our youth, bringing that confidence in our youth so they can grow up to be productive members of our society. So maybe it's a little self-serving a little bit to hope and help our youth of today grow up and own businesses and be a wonderful workforce here in Florence. So businesses, families come here for the schools, for the businesses, and really this will be a place that people want to come. And I thank the school district for all the advances that they have done. We've made incredible advances. Superintendent Knudsen did mention a couple of them. He actually didn't mention a whole bunch more that we hope we can talk about tonight, of some of the advances that the district is going through. And I really hope that I can help be a part of it and help grow and keep Florence moving forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tammy Quist, and it sounds like I'm getting feedback. I am a lifelong educator. I've been in education pretty much my whole life. Started as a teacher and then became a principal. And I have raised 3 children who are now adults, and we're starting the next generation. And my grandson is 2, and he will be a student in the Florence Unified School District. And so I believe in servant leadership. I believe that we all have a way that we can give back to our communities with whatever gifts that we're given. And I'm very excited to help be a part of this district. You have a great reputation. I was telling your superintendent when I first met him that one of the first people that I talked to when I moved to this state was someone that worked at the Department of Ed. And when I told her I've got a future daughter-in-law who is a special education teacher at Florence High School, and when she was applying for the job, the person at the State Department said, Florence Unified, that is a school district on the move. So that's a great place to be. So I'm very excited to be here tonight. Thank you for coming out. I know that everyone has other things that they could be doing, and it shows your dedication to the students in this school district to be able to come and listen to what looks like a very capable group. I'm sure that no matter who you vote for, you can't go wrong, it looks like. So again, thank you for coming, and we look forward to answering all of your questions tonight.
Thank you. Question number 2, we're going to start with Sherri Jones. What is your vision for Florence Unified, and what would you like to see moving forward?
Sorry, I have to get myself composed. I didn't thinking we were going to go in the same order. So out of my career, when I have worked with early childhood education programs throughout Arizona, many of the conversations that start out are based on what are the ideals and things that you envision for your program, your students, your families. And when I think about the Florence Unified School District, I hold those same values of wanting to see children have high quality learning experiences, to see educators that are supported both with necessary tools to be successful in the classroom, to have the financial support to support their children that they're serving, their families that they're connecting with, as well as to be recognized and valued for the commitment that they have to the school district so that they stay. And when you think about the larger picture, teacher retention as well as teacher recruitment is a huge conversation across all sectors of education. And so with the Florence Unified School District, we definitely want to see our educators supported. And then also being able to be that pillar in the community, especially going through an experience that we are facing with the pandemic, and making sure that people feel that there is a community, and the school is often that keystone in that conversation, especially because we want to wrap around children and make sure that they feel supported and can be successful. Additionally, based off of our bond conversation that we started this event off and speaking about, is making sure that we have capacity to still capture all of the growth that is happening. I've been in Santan Valley since 2004, so I've seen quite a lot of growth, and as a homeowner have benefited from that growth. And I would like to see us continue to develop so that way we can continue to have people want to be a part of this community and grow and support all of the efforts that students need to be well-rounded individuals as they step into the workforce.
My turn. Okay. Similar to what Sherri said, I totally agree. You know, we've grown amazingly fast in this area, and the school district has done an amazing job in growing with it. If you had been here, sounds like a lot of us have been for 10 or 15 years, the school district had its challenges. And in the last 10 or so years, maybe even 5, graduation rates have gone up, test scores have gone up. As superintendent mentioned, we have kids going to Ivy League schools, and 10 years ago we couldn't say that. So, being a part of that and continuing to grow and watching FUSD continue to make those advances, to continue to give our youth the belief, the confidence that they can do those things, while giving them the tools to be able to make their dreams come true, is why I'm here. Creating that workforce, creating that education, and empowering our youth that are going to be our leaders for tomorrow. I hope that we can continue to do that. I see the leadership in the district that is following that. The bond is giving us some of the tools to give us the space to provide some of the upper level education, and hopefully some other education, maybe for those special needs classes that we also should be focusing on. We need to give every youth the equal opportunity for success, and we're doing that here in Florence, and I hope to be a part of it as we continue to do so. Thank you.
Well, I can see that our vision is similar, because everything that you two said, I concur. You know, we all want healthy communities, and in order to have healthy communities, we need to have a strong educational system. And as a business owner and a consultant, one of the things that I do is I'm all over the country, and I'm in schools all over the country, helping schools become better at serving their students and their families. I think, in a word, continuing, of course, on the journey that we're on right now, but looking also at equity for all students, like Roger was talking about, making sure that no matter, you know, which part of town a student is from, or what special unique ability that student has, or what language that student speaks, that they are all offered the same excellent education, so that when they do graduate from these fine high schools, that they are able to go wherever they want and do whatever they want with their lives, and do it having the skills that are necessary to be successful. Also, I think that sense of community that Sherri was talking about, also, it is important for us to build a strong community and work together as a community. For those of you that are sitting out there in those seats, those of us that are running for school board, the administration, the teachers, the support staff, it takes everyone to build an excellent system. And we just have to pay attention to that and all work together towards that common end. Thank you.
Okay, I agree with every one of you. I'm going to take it a little different direction. To me, the value really is our philosophy. Our philosophy is kids first. If we make every decision with kids first in mind, we will be the #1 district in the state of Arizona, not just FUSD district #1. All of you that have been around for quite a while, I was here, my first year, my daughter was here in 2004. There was no curriculum at all. Walker Butte was in its first year. There were no computers. We barely had teachers that had a year or two of experience. The growth that we've had in the past, 14 years has been incredible. No other district has gone from, 1,400 kids to almost 10,000. The board, as a whole, in the past 14 years, has pretty much put kids first. And with our current leadership, with Mr. Knudsen, Mr. Leckie, and the rest of the district team, this is what they embody every hour, every minute, every day, every week, every month, every year. We have made more progress in the past 3.5, 4 years than we made probably in the previous 5 or 6. Every candidate up here, I think, will do an amazing job on the board. But it truly is kids first. Every decision we make must be about the kids, and if it's about the kids, then it's about our staff and faculty and behind the scenes custodians and bus drivers to make this the best district in the state of Arizona.
Thank you. Okay, so some of you already spoke to this, but the next question is, do you support the FUSD Proposition 449 and Proposition 208, and why or why not? And we'll start with Roger this time.
Gave me the easy one to start off with. Yes, I do support those. I've actually written a number of times as the chamber person that we do support the bond and the other proposition. We've talked about it a number of times. We're growing. We have the plan in place to continue to excel, to serve our youth, to make the children the priority. And in order for that to happen, if you have this many kids in an area, we need space. We need that growth. All the years of tax cuts or spending cuts on schools have taken its toll. We heard a little bit about the buses. We heard a little about all the challenges that we have. Go around to some of these school districts. They're real. Some of the schools, they are real. I've seen them. We need new buses. We need new buildings, and this will absolutely help. 208 will help give some funding to a lot of the staff that's been ignored in the past, keeping them around and not losing them to other professions. We have some amazing staff, and the only way that we're going to keep them is paying them and continuing to give them professional development, which also costs money, and giving them the things that make them want to come here, and definitely supporting both propositions. Thank you.
Yes, as well. I fully and wholeheartedly support both 208 and 449. I think it's obvious. I think everyone understands that you can't continue to support the teachers and help them grow and develop and retain quality staff without the support that is necessary to do so, and that costs money. We know that with aging infrastructure, we know that we need to continue to add on. I mean, you can look around and see how much building is going on around this community and understand that we need the facilities to house additional students. And so looking at especially 208, as I look at 208 and the impact when we're looking at those high wage earners, and I have nothing against people doing very well economically. I'm a business owner myself, and I have no problem with that. What we're looking at is those very top income earners, that top 1%, and we're looking at, you know, making $1,000 a day, those people that make $1,000 a day, to take $11 and invest in our schools. And that's something that I think, again, we talk about the responsibility that we have as citizens, and we all have a responsibility to continue to educate the future generations. So fully support, and will do whatever I can to help make it a go.
Absolutely. I gotta turn the mic on. Both bonds need to pass. What I hope, and for those that I talked to earlier, a couple months ago, I hope everyone actually reads the information on 208. There's a lot of bad information out there on TV about it, both on the for and the against. I wish that what you presented today could be out there to everyone. I've read that pamphlet literally 3 times until I fell asleep one night. There's a lot of good information in there, but it's buried. It's buried really well. So yes, we need that money. There are buses in our fleet that have been running for 15 years, have almost 2 million miles on them. They need to be replaced. We need buildings. We need more teachers. We need more health aides. We need counselors. We need security. So yes, we need both of these bonds to pass, and I hope they pass unanimously with big numbers.
Okay, so I echo what my fellow candidates for school board. The biggest thing for me is the overarching framework of doing the right thing for children, which has been a common theme in the conversation that we've been having so far. The investment in our capital when it comes to our buildings, as both Roger and Bob have indicated with our school buses, all the things that are necessary to make the learning environments for children safe, to show them that we actually care about their experiences, that we want teachers to have high quality experiences in their classrooms and schools. That's what this bond represents for me, and supporting 449 as well as 208 validate that we need to make that investment. And the investment is not solely just in for the children and the families, but for the whole community. As we see the growth starting to really spread across Santan Valley, I honestly wasn't sure how long it was going to take to start seeing some of the communities popping up. But I know that when people are moving out here, some of the first questions they ask is, how are your schools? You know, what is your school district doing to support, you know, high educational experiences, so that I know when I come out to Santan Valley, because I love the way that it's growing, that I know that my family is going to be well received, and that my children will have these great experiences as they move through their child development phase of living in a community. With Proposition 208, Invest in Ed, 2 years ago, I can remember doing canvassing all over Pinal County to get signatures, to get it on the ballot, and in the middle of summer. But I was passionate about making sure that people understood and had a human being that they could talk to, versus seeing the narrative that plays out on TV, or the fighting that potentially plays out on social media. Because at the end of the day, I want people to know that teachers need to have the support Otherwise, they're going to leave. And I've unfortunately have witnessed that or had conversations with educators who can't afford sometimes to take care of their own family because they don't have the salary to meet the needs that they need to fulfill their own families' lives. So yes, and I could get very passionate, but I have 30 seconds, so I'm going to wrap it there and say that yes, I support 449 and 208.
Some propositions deserve to be passionate about.
Yes.
I'll just say that. All right. Our next question is regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. So it has had quite an impact on education in Arizona, as well as nationwide. Describe your priorities for keeping schools safe for students, teachers, staff, and the community. And we'll start with Tammy.
Oh, give me the easy question, huh? Okay, so kids first is not just a mantra. It's a belief. And if we truly believe that we put kids first, we really need to look at the health and the welfare of the students that are attending school, as well as the teachers and the staff members that are in our schools. And so this is a tough call, and I think that there's nobody in our community, nor I don't know that there's any teacher that I know of across the country that doesn't want students to be in school. And not just virtual school, but be in-person classrooms. I mean, we all want them there, but we want it to be safe. And so how do we look at the data and the guidance from the health organizations that we're getting guidance from? How do we continue to look at the metrics so that we can safely educate students in the classroom, practicing whatever types of social distancing are required at the beginning until we have a handle on this pandemic. And I am not an expert, I'm not a health expert, but there are a lot of people that are. And I think if we lean on the scientists, the data, and we continue to monitor that and understand that we have to be flexible because things are changing all the time. And something could go south before we even know it. But knowing that we're all in this together, we'll continue to keep everyone informed every step of the way, so that everyone feels comfortable. They know what the decisions are that are being made. The decisions are transparent. We talk about where we're getting the data, and again, making sure that putting students first, that is where we have to be always.
Bravo. I personally think that the board has come up with, or the district has come up with, and the board has approved a good starting in-class startup starting next week. As Rita and I were talking a little earlier, will we have COVID cases in the classroom? Absolutely. There's not a school district that's open that doesn't. We will have that. Do we have a plan in place to stop it, to quarantine those people? Absolutely. If things get really bad, do we have a plan to shut things down? Yes. We will do what is right for our kids, for our staff, for our custodians. We've, added custodial staff to do, every school, every night, every day, all day long. We've hired staff to do all of our buses, to, face masks and shields and, sanitizing stations and washing hands and loading buses from the back to the front. And, we are doing everything that we humanly can. But I'm going to make sure that everyone knows, just like every other school district, at some point we probably will have a case or two of COVID in the schools. It's going to happen, especially with the flu bugs going around. Are we going to know whether it's flu or COVID? I don't know. That's going to be a whole different dilemma. So everybody say your prayers, everybody cross your fingers. But I think we have a solid plan in place.
So I didn't fully share what my background is before in the introduction, but I work for the state of Arizona, and I've had the pleasure, if we can use that word when we talk about COVID-19, to work with many people who have been inundated with stabilizing things since we have moved into pandemic response, our stay-at-home orders from the governor. One of the things that I really appreciate from my leadership is transparency, and that's something that has been said here so far. And getting our information from the governor's team, being connected to the local level county health departments, as well as the Department of Health, and factoring in all of the data, factoring in the information that's coming from the experts who are focused on COVID-19 and watching it across the world and how we can be better prepared. With looking at how we bring schools back into opening, I think the Florence Unified School District is, to Bob's point, really doing a good job. I watched the last school board meeting and saw the presentation that focused on meeting the benchmarks, being in conversation with the Pinal County Health Department, getting orders from the governor's team, as well as any guidance from the Arizona Department of Education. So all the work that I've been doing with on the early childhood side of looking at how COVID-19 is impacting that community, Florence Unified School District is spot on. I was actually really, really impressed. And I say that because I have literally lived in a COVID-19 conversation daily, from being at the state level and having to manage and monitor how is this impacting all of the work that we do, how are we connecting with families to support all of their needs that have popped up, and how are we helping to stabilize just Arizona's in general. So I think Florence Unified School District is spot on with the direction that they're moving, and continuing to just monitor things, to have plans in place. And unfortunately, things can change on a rapid daily basis, and making sure that those items and things that are most important to the schools and to families and educators and administrators is being tackled daily and transparently with the community.
I think the first question was regarding priorities, and I think that I agree with Tammy that the kids do come first. Staff, teachers, the safety of our kids and the teachers and the support staff should be number one. We owe it to them. They're here doing us a service, and we need to protect them. We also need to be doing our job, which is educating and preparing our youth. So second priority would also be that we're able to do our job in a safe environment. So once again, we've talked a little bit about the plan. We have an amazing plan, and I believe that we are ready to go on October 5th, but that would be a priority. Transparency also. Numbers change, information changes from the governor's office almost daily. I think all of us are on one call or another almost daily, getting updates from the governor's office. He's been really good about holding meetings with various entities and interest groups. And so we kind of know the numbers. They're a little bit to be interpreted, but sharing those numbers with the district and letting everybody know, hey, your kids are coming here, our teachers are safe, our staff is safe, and your kids are safe, and they're getting a first-class education. Those would be my priorities.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, we'll start with Bob. I'll go back to Bob, right? As a board member, how would you address equity in schools and promote cultural responsiveness in a school community?
You thought your question was tough. How do I even put this? Equity and culture. Okay, I'm gonna go back to kids first. If we are running a district, kids first, then we are doing everything that we need for equity in our schools. It's about educating It's about teaching and understanding and having the counselors and support staff to handle any things that come up. This is a big topic right now, and I personally think that we have done a really good job. I know that ASBA, the Arizona School Board Association, does a fabulous job in passing this information on to us at all of our conferences, and I think we are right up there with most of the school districts, and probably a little bit above because of the leadership that we have. But it truly is continuing to educate our staff, our kids, on what equity truly is in a school district.
I actually want to echo a little bit of what Bob said. I do think that you need to start with the children and creating a safe space to have powerful conversations. And then you build upon that with your teachers and your families. And it is very topical right now. So it makes it really easy to step into this space and say, hey, let's open this door and really see how are we doing. I think one of the things that as a new person coming in, is I am a very data-driven person. Like, I want to see, what does this actually look like? So it's one thing to hear anecdotal, people tell stories, which is great, but I'd be curious to see what it looks like on paper when we look at the availability of content in the curriculum, and what does the library look like in the elementary schools, and how do teachers feel about being able to support these kinds of conversations? They're not easy, but it definitely is something that we have to speak about. We need to make people feel comfortable to come to the table and not have the correct answers, and to hold space so that we can safely explore what this really means, but at the same time making sure that we are making advancements with continuing to bring in the multiculturalism and diversity of our community and the families that we serve, and making sure that teachers feel supported to be able to navigate these conversations and any challenges or barriers that actually do exist. It's always easy to say what's not working sometimes before we can address what is working. And I think this is a powerful conversation to have both of those sides on the table, and then seek expertise. There are many people in the Valley, Maricopa County, who actually specialize in this subject matter and are willing to come into the community to share how to do this successfully, so that we feel like we can really build our community to represent the greatness that that Florence Unified School District is, and welcoming everybody to the table.
I think Florence and the school district is pretty culturally mixed. I think kids growing up in elementary school are their friends, maybe different races, different colors, different religions, everything. They're growing up with a comfortable attitude towards the friends, and the schools also should reflect that. Schools, classes, and teachers should understand that, and should be a priority. Hopefully, we can continue that. We haven't had any of the problems that some of the other states or cities have had, and that's one thing great about Florence, is that we are a big family, and so this equity that is definitely important all throughout the United States right now is hopefully a little bit less of an issue right here in Florence, but definitely should still be focused on. I agree that we need classes. We should be making sure that our teachers understand the differences and the needs of all of our students and the classes. I know for a fact that we have classes that support and give the needed encouragement and guidance to those students that need it in those areas. So I think I'll end right there.
When I heard that question, I thought of a graphic that I use a lot in trainings. I see a 7-foot fence, and I see 3 kids. One is 4 foot, one is 5 foot, one is 6 foot. And any of you that have ever taught in the middle school, that is entirely possible. And basically, in order to see over the fence, we have to have each of those students stand on something so that they can see over the fence. So we know that the student that's 4 foot needs a bigger box than the student who is 6 foot. That's what equity is. Equity is not equality, and a lot of people get those confused. When we talk about equity in schools, it's really giving each student what they need to be successful. And then when we pair that with cultural responsiveness, it's making sure that we have a deep appreciation and understanding of each other and of each of the cultures, the religions, etc., that are represented in our schools, so that we can get kids what they need. And if we say that we're kids first, that's exactly what we'll do. Some of the things I think that Sherri talked about, the other thing I was thinking of was the curricular choices that we make in our schools. What kinds of curriculum are we using? How well represented are each of the cultures that are sitting in our classrooms? How well are they represented in the classes that we teach? How do we celebrate the gifts that each student brings to the classroom, each of the unique gifts that are based on culture or any of their, even the types of things that their families enjoy? How do we appreciate that as a community, as a classroom community? How do we monitor equity? Another thing that Sherri said that I really tuned into was the collecting of data. In order to measure, because I think we all have good intentions, and we all say that yes, we have equity, but do we really have equity? And how do we know if we do or don't? Well, there are things that we can measure, like how many students, what types of students are taking AP classes, how when we take a look at our graduation rate and we break it down, what does that look like? So I think that, we continue to do the type of job knowing that we're paying attention to equity, and we learn from each other, we give kids what they need, and we'll continue to do the great job.
Okay, so our next question, we'll start with you, Sherri. Do you plan to support funding for systems that support the social and emotional health of students and staff? How would you recommend supporting the social and emotional health of students and staff upon returning and thereafter?
So with social emotional has been a big topic with supporting children and families and teachers as we come back online, so to speak, with COVID-19. I had the pleasure of sitting in a presentation with representatives from California, and they were talking about the process that they have gone through with what does this look like with online learning, and how do we support the academic process. And unanimously across the panel, they said we need to start with social emotional first. We need to make sure that we're building community, that we are establishing trusting relationships with our students, and that we are conscious and responsive to all of the things that this pandemic potentially has impacted all of our children and their families, as well as our educators. And some of the key takeaways that has been a part of my work in early childhood, but specifically come to mind when we're talking about us embracing what is the next step in the new normal, is making sure that we are focused on destigmatizing mental health challenges, that we are literally building teams that are focused around supporting educators to navigate this. Prop 208 is an opportunity to bring funding in so that we can get more counselors into the schools. We need to have capacity to be able to support, as well as to connect with the community to understand what are the resources out there depending on the variation of needs that families may be experiencing, which all falls under the umbrella of social emotional support, so that children can be stable and be able to learn. Because if the brain is compromised with fear and stress and concerns about loved ones who potentially may be affected by the virus, all the way across the spectrum of families that may have lost income, or a variety of different things that we know could have potentially happened during this experience. And the school does carry a heavy burden, so to speak, of making sure that these things are implemented so that children can be successful. So providing support, connecting resources, leveraging the community, all of the assets of family members, and continuing to be transparent and building the school community, and really staying connected as much as possible to all the families, especially those with greater needs.
Wow, in this time and day, kind of an easy question, I would think. Before even COVID, with social media and all the pressures that are put on our youth of today, I think SEL was already a huge topic, and then we get hit with COVID and one of the biggest disasters of our time. I can't even imagine the stress of a kid, whether it's K-8 or even in high school, trying to deal with the challenges of today and trying to think about tomorrow and his future, and just trying to get an education. Not being on the board and privy to some of the minute details of the budget, I can't promise that we could add something like that. Did I lose? There we go. And so, would I be in support of something like that? Absolutely. I think it's needed more now than ever. I think Sherri said that the schools do have a big burden. We're the ones that see the kids probably the most of anybody in the family or the community. So we are the people that may be seeing them act out, see them with the challenges that their family may not see. But like I said, without seeing a budget and going through the numbers and seeing what else has been cut, what else is being thought about, giving an answer of whether I could add it or not, I just can't say at this point. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. SEL, as was just stated, is even before COVID, we're seeing the importance of SEL education. If we pay attention, we're in the business of looking at the student brain and how the brain learns and how children develop, and we know that if students do not have the social and emotional support, that it is very difficult for them to learn and to learn at high levels. And so how do we embed that in our existing curriculum? There are plenty of opportunities. It does take support and it does take money, and it takes training, it takes teacher training. The question was framed in such a way, do you support systems? And I am a wholeheartly yes, absolutely. And especially as Sherri was saying, with COVID right now, our kids are suffering right now. And, they're at home, they're not in their usual situation. And it's very difficult. Many of them have parents or grandparents who have been sick. They're scared. Their life has been disrupted very much. And, we do need to support the students as they continue to survive, and to thrive in this type of an environment. And I know that we can do it. It will take resources. It will take loving teachers and support staff and families, and school administrators that are all working together. And I know that we can do that, and it may take some money. So we find the money. That's what we need to do.
Prop 208, where are you? Yes, we need money. We need more counselors. We need more psychiatrists, psychologists in our district. We almost need at least 1 or 2 counselors per building. We need psychologists, at least 4 or 5 of them. And where's the money for that? The state certainly doesn't supply that. So we may have to look, other places. May have to look and see if we can get some people to come in and do some talks, on our half days for the teachers to give them some support and answers. I know the district's been working on it, and they have for years and years, but it all comes down to dollars. And like I say, let's hope that our bond pot passes and the 208 passes, and maybe we'll have some money to do that.
I'm losing track of who's starting. Roger Sherman. Okay. So schools across Arizona have had to deal with budget cuts. As a board member, how would you address budget cuts, and what programs or positions would you eliminate if faced with budget cuts? And what programs and or positions would you add with increased funding? And this is our last question.
All right, I get the last question. I think my answer is very, very simple. I cannot authorize or even talk about cutting budgets or cutting programs without seeing a budget and being able to talk through the things, seeing what's important, what's not. Keeping our staff and teachers is of utmost priority, and keeping them as we move forward, keeping a trend without transitioning through teachers every year. So that is what we need to focus on with the budget, and starting to talk about cutting or adding. If the bond passes and we have all this money and Chris is, has free reign, I'd love to see more advanced placement classes. We've talked about how we're increasing the ceiling for our youth, talking about giving them all the confidence in the world to go out in the world today. Let's get all the AP classes that we can do. Get some wonderful teachers and give them all the opportunities that every school would love to have. We also need those special needs kids to have their chance also. Let's get a bunch of special needs classes going. Let's talk about social workers and counselors. We have lots of support staff in there that we can talk about that we'd love to add. I could spend all night here talking about what we could add and all the arts and all the sports and everything. But it is a financially driven business, if you will, and we have a job to do. We have the job, and we have to make best use of the money that we have. So I hope that if I'm on the board, we can make those decisions and make some very smart decisions. So, like I said, we can continue to grow this district and continue to give the education that these kids deserve. But not prepared to talk about cutting budgets right at this moment, or cutting classes. Thank you.
No one likes to do that. No one likes to cut budgets. Sometimes when you have a finite number at the end of the day, it's necessary. I think that most importantly, that whatever budget cuts that are made are done in full transparency. There's been a process that's been communicated. People know what the process is. They've had an opportunity to give input or feedback. At the end of the day, we look at, how do we least impact students? We live our mantra. If students are first, how do our resources and our decisions about budget, how does that fulfill that mantra? The late, great Senator Paul Wellstone from Minnesota said, "We all do better when we all do better." And I think that working together, whether it's to cut a budget, whether it's to bring our kids back after COVID, whether it's to implement rigorous educational programs, we all do better when we work together. And so you have, it sounds to me like you have some great choices in your board candidates, and I appreciate you being here again tonight. And with that, I'll close.
And I'm going to take this a little different direction. For those of you in the audience that don't understand a board member's role, I'm going to give you the quick 30-second version. There are 5 of us on the board. Not any one of us can make a decision. It takes a majority. There has to be a vote of at least 3. Do we all sit in a boardroom and come up with, we're gonna cut this, we're gonna cut that, we're gonna add this? No. That all comes from the district staff, the ATM meetings, which is a gathering on, all the principals and, a teacher from, each school and transportation. And so we as a board then look at what their options are. And then we come up with, is this a good plan? Do they need to go back to the table? Can we add this? Do we have to take that away? So in what everyone said, is absolutely true, is we are not in a place, especially right now, to even think about cutting programs. I don't think we will have to do that because our bonds will be approved. And hopefully we can add programs that we may have taken away in the past. We don't have band teachers at every school anymore. We don't have choir teachers at every school anymore. We don't have drama teachers. Hopefully we can add some of that back along with psychologists and counselors. And so as a board member, we only have a very small piece of the puzzle. We are just the final approval, the yays, the nays, to the district staff. And right now, we have probably the best district staff in the state of Arizona. And as my closing words, I want to thank Mr. Knudsen, Mr. Letke, all of our teachers, all of our principals, all of our custodians, all of our bus drivers, all of our food service people, all of our mail staff. And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but we have the best district in the state of Arizona, in my opinion. So thank you very much.
So I echo very much the sentiment of my fellow candidates here. My initial thought in hearing that conversation, again, is to look at the data, is to do analysis of what historically has happened across multiple school years, to see what decisions that have been tough that have had to be made, what decisions have actually benefited, and to Bob's point of restoring some cuts that may have happened in the past. I think transparency is huge. It's making sure that you are hearing the voice of the community. Having attended some of the FUSD school boards online or in person, and others around the valley, and seeing parents step up and plea for programs to not be cut or to include things. I've watched board members have to sit there, even having to make decisions that may not be what some people want to hear, and it's all driven from making sure that we're looking at all the things that will impact children and taking that student-centric perspective. The other part, I think, to Bob's part, is knowing my place as someone who could potentially be new to the board, and really following the lead of the school district leadership as well as senior members on the board, and really having supportive conversations about how do we all help make the best decisions to support the schools, the children, the families, and continuing the mission and the vision and guiding principles for how the funding is spent at the Florence Unified School District. So that's my final words, and thank you everybody for coming out, and I'm thankful that the weather was actually pleasant. I guess we are in our fall weather, so hopefully it wasn't too terrible sitting out in the patio to have this experience, and I appreciate you giving us your commitment to hear about the Florence Unified School District and to see the presentation of the potential new candidates for the Florence Governing School Board.
All right, can we just give all of our candidates a round of applause, please? I want to thank you each again for being here. It takes a lot to step into the arena and run for public office. I said before, on the back of your program, There's a little bit of information on voting. So all 4 of these candidates are write-in candidates, and what that means, or a civic education program, what that means, if you already know this, please go out and tell 5 friends. You are not going to see any printed names on your ballot for Florence Unified School District. So you need to write in your choosing the candidates that you want to represent you. You need to write in their first and last name as legibly as possible and cast your vote for up to 3 of the candidates that you heard speak today. So thank you so much for being servant leaders. Thank you so much for stepping into the arena. It is so appreciated and not lost on me. I want to thank Superintendent Knudsen for coming out and talking about the bond and the importance of that. I want to thank Public Relations Director Biede and and Jody Hector, the Florence Education Association President. And then I want to also give an extra special thank you to all of you engaged community members who came out, and for those who are all taking the time to watch this virtually. Your engagement strengthens our community, and I think it was Tammy that had said earlier, you could be doing something different, but you chose to spend your time here. So thank you for strengthening our community. To that, before you leave, I want to make sure that you have completed the 2020 census. And again, if you already have, tell 5 friends. The 2020 census, the deadline has been extended to October 5th. It was supposed to be October 31st, then it was shortened. Now we have an extra week, October 5th. For those of you who may or may not know, this provides federal funding for our communities for the next decade. So it's 10 minutes of time for 10 years of funding. You can complete the form online. It's never been easier at 2020census.gov. October 5th is also the deadline to register to vote in the 2020 election. If you are not registered, we have somebody that can register you tonight. You can also check your registration status at my.arizona.vote. And then finally, please continue to stay engaged. We've been talking a lot about school funding today. School funding is determined by your legislative representatives, so your senator and your 2 House elected officials. They are also up for election on in November. We are having a candidate forum for the legislative candidates happening October 6th, which is, I believe, next Tuesday. And you can find more information on all of our events at RAZE.org or by following us on Facebook or Instagram at Rural AZ Engage. So I thank you all again for coming. Please have a wonderful rest of the night and be well.